because I get what you're saying, hedgehog, right?
Yeah.
I get it's Silverhog, but the fact that his name is normally Johnny Silverhand leads to a much darker interpretation. Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming.
Two friends.
I got two friends. One is my friend, his other is me. My name is Chase.
And my name is David.
Hello.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm doing all right, considering, you know.
Considering the world's on fire.
Considering the everything. It snowed a little bit in Seattle today. But I would not say snow. Like if listener, you're picturing snow. It's not that. It's kind of just like, it looks like it's snowing outside, but there is nothing on the ground.
It's like slushy rain.
A little bit, yeah. Nevertheless, Seattle freaks out whenever this happens. None of us are prepared for this. Partially because it is a very hilly city, which makes it potentially, not a great situation to be driving around in, which I myself have learned extremely firsthand.
Yeah, that's a fun story. That's a terrifying story, actually, which I would have not had a good time.
Yeah, it's gave quite a kiss. I think I've told that story on here before, but yeah,
gave quite a kiss.
Gave quite a kiss to the driver in front of me.
Yeah, to someone who's not your wife, your betrothed.
Yeah, coming down a hill without any brakes because the snow says no, we're done with brakes. But somehow didn't really come out of that one feeling too bad about hills. I would really presume that would have left an impact. But I guess not. I don't know what that says about me.
It says you're resilient, baby. That's awesome.
Maybe. I don't know.
You don't know that you're resilient?
I don't feel like it. I don't feel like a particularly resilient. Like, I love routine and the comfort of a similar thing day to day. You know what I mean?
I think it's because you're like an earth type. So earth, a hill, has like very little effect on you.
Yeah. Like a Pokemon matchup type? Is that what you're saying?
That's kind of what I'm going for, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the hill didn't latch onto my brain so much.
Yeah. I think it's just it was even less than just a normal affinity.
Yeah,
it did reduce damage to you.
Car crash is not very effective.
Yeah. You did Earth on Earth. What did you expect?
Seattle tries to use collision. It's not very effective. Although it was very expensive, I will say. Of all the things
Chase
it was.
blocked the effects with his bank account.
Attempted to. More so Allstate blocked the effects of it, but nobody gets out for free.
Hey, there you go. Allstate. Who's their spokesperson? Is it the guy from The Wire?
Yeah, the guy who says, are you in good hands?
That's it, yeah.
It's not Jake. Jake is not on this one.
That's State Farm, please.
Yes, correct.
I know State Farm's mascot.
I was about to say, your experience with 2K really shines a light on the State Farm expanded universe.
My made-up experience with 2K State Farm, which, hey, could be a thing. That's what was great about that example.
Yeah, I'm with you. Have you been playing video games, David?
I have been, Chase.
I'd love to hear about it.
It was time. It was time for my metaphor to end, finally.
Sure, yeah.
I have refantazioed and defantazioed. It's over. I've
metaphor defantazio is very good.
Literal defantazio.
Yeah.
So yeah, I beat Metaphor Refantazio. Did. Yeah.
How did you feel about, without spoiling it too much, how did you feel about kind of the conclusion and the game as a whole?
It was great. I really loved it. Yeah. I think it stuck the landing very well. I think there's a lot of different ways you can interpret this game. I think that it is easy to interpret as just like very heavy-handed with what it's trying to do. But I don't think it's trying to be subtle. Like, its name is literally Metaphor. It's not trying to beat around the bush. And I think that it is in our current state of the world, when these ideals and these morals are not being espoused or modeled by our leaders, it is, I think, important for media and stories to do that for us, all of us, across the age spectrum, to remind us what this can feel like. And I think that is really what, and I know that is what the game is going for, because it pretty much tells you, right? right? But once again, I don't think that is a knock to me on the game. Like I've heard some people say, I think it's okay to be overt with these things. Not everything has to be subtle or, so convoluted or artsy or sniffing its own farts that can't determine exactly what the message is, right?
Yeah.
And, sometimes they're trying to do that on purpose or trying to be, put the ball in your court to make your interpretation. Yeah. But I think it is important, especially nowadays, with what this game is trying to say, to be overt. This is what we are saying. This is what I hope you take away from it. And this is what I hope it sparks in you. And I thought that was a very beautiful thing to have in this game, to convey with this game, because they did it very well. I thought there was one line, I will never understand you, but boy, I know that I don't hate you. And that was so good. That was so good. Just like, we need this energy. Be more like Heisme. My God.
Yeah.
The man's great. I just also love how Heisme is just trying to be all the Lost Boys' father figure in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Not so much with Stroll, but Stroll's a little bit too intense, I think. Stroll doesn't need another father figure because his father is such a figure to him already.
I think Stroll also carries his dad like a lot more than a lot of the other characters. Like, absolutely. Stroll, I think, is constantly kind of in conversation with his parents.
No room for Heisman.
Like, he doesn't really need a father figure in that way.
Yeah, but yeah, I just love how well they crafted these characters, crafted this world, crafted this narrative, and just like some of the fourth wall breaking at the end is so good.
I know, yeah.
A light spoiler. Well, not I guess, I'd say a light spoiler, but the revelation that part of the king's spell was to bring you, the player, to guide the protagonist through this journey. Someone from a world where hope is not yet lost. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Really just trying to gas you up as a human being in this world. Be like, hey, things can still turn around. It's still possible. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think I think I agree with you that I appreciate when a work is subtle, but I don't think that the inverse is true of like that I wouldn't appreciate when there is not a lot of subtlety. I think if something is well told, I don't really care necessarily. Like, again, I always think about the situation that Game of Thrones got into, or like even Lost to a certain extent, where it seemed like the creators were almost frustrated that people were kind of guessing what was going to happen, and that they were like, we want to, the phrase subvert expectations comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're discussing that stuff, and like, I don't think it's a bad thing to be like predictable in that way. And so if you're talking about like, if something is overt or not, I don't necessarily think that that's bad.
Yeah.
If it's heavy handed, then yeah, sure. That kind of like it defeats some of the purpose, like when something is screaming its message at you, sometimes it's kind of like, okay, I get it,
Yeah.
But I think that Metaphor does a good job of like telling you the same message from about 20 different directions. And like, that works for me. I think that's totally okay. And like you said, I think for people who are, progressive or leftist, like some of these things are going to feel like, okay, bro, like, do we really need that reminder? But like, I think that the evidence suggests that yes, some people do. It might just not be the group that we typically associate with, I don't think a group of people who are particularly open with like, yeah, anybody can come hang and like be a part of this collective community would necessarily need to learn, boy, I don't hate, or I'll never understand you, but I don't hate you kind of thing. Like, but that like that still serves a purpose, and I think it serves the narrative of the game here.
Absolutely.
So like, yeah, and plus like I think you were mentioning this before of there being like 100 different interpretations of it. It's fine that there's only a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay with that, and especially when like I appreciate when a work does that in a way where it's obvious or like clear that they are leaving room up to interpretation and saying like, we've given you a lot, maybe you can lean on something. 1,000 Times Resist feels like this to me, where there's so many threads to pull on that if you pull on one of them, something will like come out at you and be like, okay, that's a really wild interpretation and there's so much meaning here.
Yeah.
Versus like something that pretends to be very deep and is just vague for vagueness sake. Like that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
And so like in the way that like vagueness isn't inherently a good way of storytelling, like I think that the inverse there is true of of something being overt doesn't necessarily mean it's always bad. And I think Metaphor is a good example of overt storytelling being like compelling to me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that, playing this game to the end, it started like setting off my Kingdom Hearts sensors in that it is, and we talked about this a little bit on the pod yesterday, it's very earnest. Mm-hmm. It is just so sincere about its characterization and its message and so consistent with it that it's hard to fault it for that, right? Mm-hmm. And like if it had wavered or if it wasn't just like this through line from beginning to end of like, this is the right thing to do and this is why in all these different ways, maybe it wouldn't have been as effective. But it does that very well and just keeps that through line going earnestly and sincerely throughout the whole game. And I think that's really what makes this game crackle, right? Is that it knows what its values are. And that's actually interesting because I was talking to a patient the other day. She's a psychologist and I asked her what she has been telling to people right now who are coming to her with anxiety and fears about the world right now. And she's like, you got to double down on your core values. And I feel like this game absolutely does that. It's like, these are our values. This is what is going to pull us through to the end. And I know it's clearly a metaphor for our world nowadays, but it just does such a good job of hammering home at least the things that are important to me and what I feel are things that can get us through to the other side. So it's a very hopeful, optimistic, podtimistic game for me. And I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also liked it a lot.
One other thing I want to say about this game. I love the fact that canonically the music in your head or the music that you're listening to the whole time is just being played by Gallica.
I don't think I remember getting that lore drop.
No, because like in the very beginning of the game, you're in the desert and she's like, oh, I know you're anxious right now. I know you're kind of scared, but like, I'll give you the blessing of like the original magic music and you'll just hear music in your head from now on.
That's so funny.
And it's just the music for the game. It's the music for the game. And it's just, I just imagine Gallica being the screaming, singing man in the background.
She just pitched her voice down.
Which is really funny to me. I love that. I love that mental image.
That's really good.
And I would just also want to say the last battle is so good. There's so many different levels to it, so many different forms. It really feels like such an epic struggle. And each form just goes deeper into how diametrically opposed his view of the world is to yours. And it's just so good. It's so good. Yeah, loved it.
It's I feel like with a JRPG end like boss, you really got to earn it. Like a lot of those bosses get so wild and bananas. And if it's good, it's so good. But if you just say like, and now we're fighting God, it doesn't really work.
No, you have like 4 different forms at the end.
The forms, are really wild.
And just kept on getting crazier and crazier because like you fight him like midway through the game. You're like, is that the big boss? Is that
bad,
it?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely not. So yeah, great game. Loved it. Put like 115 hours into it. So yeah, great game. They loved it.
Great game. I liked it too. What else you got?
I also played Cyberpunk 2077.
Wake up, kid.
Wake up, a very different world than Uchronia.
Extremely different. Sure. For anybody who like is newer to the show, I feel like you were playing this maybe last year at some point.
I was. Because if you follow games, this game in particular had a very tumultuous first like 2-3 years, maybe even.
Yeah, pretty bad first year, and then I'd say kind of started to get better, and then eventually, like I think within the last year or so, people were like, "All right, I think it's like finally there."
It's what we wanted it to be from the get-go, essentially.
Yeah.
And I hadn't played it in a long time. I had downloaded the game trial, and the game trial got me. And I bought the game, and I played through it a little bit more, but I got sidetracked by other things because this is also a very long game, right?
Yeah,
Cyberpunk.
It's very lengthy.
So I jumped back in because I've been kind of jonesing for a first-person shooter recently. And I had heard that they updated the game again that just totally reset your skill tree.
Yes,
so I wanted to see what was going on with that.
Had you not played it since
I had not played it since that.
Oh,
it's a very different game now.
It's extremely different. Like it's tangibly not the same thing at all that it was.
Yeah. Instead of it being just very boring upgrades you would get for like skill points, like plus 15% damage with SMGs or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. I'm getting stronger, but like it's not Cyberpunk, It's not cool. It's not Keanu Reeves with a metal arm, right? But now they have like really cool skills and perks perks you get with the skill tree, which really goes a long way to make it feel like I can really customize this character however I want now. So yeah, I made like a blade master, and I was like going around throwing this knife at people and then run at them, pick it up, jump over on top of a cargo box, shoot people with my gun, throw my knife again, jump at them. I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is awesome. This is wild, this is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm back in Night City, aka Morro Bay in the future, which is always the craziest thing to me, because Morro Bay, if you're not from California, is like the sleepiest little hamlet of a coastal town. It's tiny, it's foggy, it is quiet, it is nothing like Night City, and that Morro Bay becomes Night City is shocking. But it's a very fun game now, I would say. Just like the couple of missions that I played with this, and they give you a lot of leeway to be like, oh, I don't know if I like this path that I took. I'm going to refund all my points and just put them somewhere else. Like you can just take them off. There's like no need to like go somewhere special to respec, which I really appreciate. I'm like, why don't more games do that? And I think it makes sense most like canonically for this game, because it's all about like enhancing your cyberware and like modifying your body. So I should be able to do that kind of whenever I want. Right. So it's cool that they really let you experiment with all of the different perks that you can get in this game now. It's a very fun game. I had a lot of fun playing this for like a couple hours the other day. Yeah.
It was so cool to see them like execute on that new skill tree thing, because I agree, like the previous points were kind of like you get plus 10 plus like 2% damage. I'm like, I don't know, man, like that doesn't feel that significant.
It's like at that point you don't even need a skill tree. Just let me level up, and it's just like,
just give me stats.
I don't need a whole entire separate area to be like looking through and like crunching numbers and like thinking about it. I'm like, I don't need that.
I feel like there was a long time where a lot of games were like inheriting lessons learned from MMOs. And I think that like WoW was such a gigantic player in that space for so long that like a lot of games inherited a lot of stuff from that. And one of them being, or two of them being like the kind of like gear scale that a lot of games have taken of like, all right, you got your purple weapons and your like orange legendary gear, and you have to like grind for that stuff. And then also these like incremental teeny tiny skills that you add up to like a spec tree that you're constantly kind of tuning. And I think that that's interesting in the case of an MMO, because it allows like so much experimentation to just get a little bit of an edge, which is a thing that happens with like, 40 people raids or whatever. It's like you need people to have like really effective builds like that to actually make it work. But in a single player game, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, why did we inherit this part of the game?
Yeah.
And like, I kind of enjoy the kind of gear thing a lot of the time. Like, that's not necessarily a knock against a game, but like compare that experience to lugging around the Deku sword and then getting the fucking Master Sword in any Zelda game. Like that is an incredible experience every time it happens. Yeah. And like, that's kind of the difference of skill trees or like gear that you could have. And so I think moving a first person action game over to the situation where it's like, if you invest a skill, it's like, maybe you don't get that many, but each one feels like monumental with what you can add or do.
Yep.
That it just feels great. Like, it's so cool that they redid that. Like, I wouldn't think to do that in Cyberpunk's case. I would think like, well, the game's out. Like, maybe we just kind of, futz around the edges rather than like, we're changing it all. It all has to come down. But I really liked it. And I agree. Like, it's fun that they just fully refund you every skill point and they're like, you got to do it again. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fun. Like, it's kind of fun to be like, I don't know, let's just try this thing out or try that thing out. I will say, if you're diving back in there, I would really definitely recommend doing the DLC for Cyberpunk.
I've heard. I want to get through the main game. Do I have to get through the main game first? Should I get through the main game first to play the DLC? Does it matter?
I think you shouldn't beat the game before you play the DLC. There's a couple of endings for the game that like wouldn't make a lot of narrative sense for you to go back and play the DLC after it.
Sure.
So I would just pick a time or like pick a moment where you're like, I'm kind of between big arcs right now that you should go and do it. Cause like it is really good. I thought it was really incredible. And
you're talking about that a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I think so. Whenever it came out, I think that was 2 years ago. But it's just such a cool encapsulation of like what makes the game fun in the first place. They've like distilled down to like a fairly short experience, like maybe 5 or 10 hours, which is like, still lengthy, but compared to the entire game is shorter. But God, I found it really, really cool.
Okay, cool. What's that called again?
Phantom Liberty?
That sounds
I'm thinking of?
I kept on wanting to say Night City Stories. I'm like, that's not it. That's definitely not it.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Liberty City Stories, which is like the spin-off of GTA 3 or something. But yeah, Phantom Liberty is the name of it. Mm-hmm. Well, it's got fucking, what's his name? Idris Elba in it.
That is cool.
It is cool.
Does he do any DJing?
He does not do any DJing. He just kind of plays like a big strong man, and he plays it pretty well. Like I'm always never sure, like if somebody can translate their good acting chops into being a video game actor. And unfortunately, like, again, I'm trying to be Podtimistic. I don't think it's Keanu Reeves who can do that very well. But Idris Elba can. He extremely can.
Keanu feels like it's Keanu dressed up as Johnny Silverhand.
Correct. Yeah, he's like cosplaying,
he's cosplaying as Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah.
But I still appreciate it. I still appreciate that he's in the game, and it is a very memorable character, for better or for worse. Yeah. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with Cyberpunk again. I also downloaded just a bunch of other games that I just this is always what happens after I beat a big one, is that I'm grasping for straws. I'm adrift in the desert. Not a desert. A blooming forest full of delicious games to try and sample. There's just so many games nowadays. I absolutely cannot keep up with the amount of good games that come out that I want to try. So yeah, I also tried Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Is that what it is called?
Nice. Yeah, it is. The more recent Dragon Ball Z fighting.
Yes, I'm getting my ass handed to me. I don't know at all what to do. The tutorial was not detailed enough. I need to get good at this game to play more. It's hard. It is hard. Raditz is just a bastard. Raditz is an actual bastard.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to spam Kamehamehas. I'm just trying to live my best Goku life, and he's over here just doing all these crazy things, and I don't know at all the timing or how to counter them. It's been a long time since I played a Tenkaichi game, and those skills are gone with the fucking wind. I will tell you that.
Rusty.
They are dead, because I didn't play too many of the Tenkaichis. I played a lot of the Budokais, but not a lot of the Tenkaichis. And for people who don't know, Budokai was more like a 2D Street Fighter-y situation.
Pretty much,
Whereas Tenkaichi, that series, is more arena battling, where you can fly and go underwater and all sorts of other crazy Dragon Ball Z stuff. So it's a much more complicated control scheme that I just do not have the muscle memory for. So yeah, I need to get better, because I do want to play through these stories, even though they don't have voice acting, which is kind of sad. Or was my game just glitching?
There's voice acting in moments, but like there is
a lot of text.
Like some of the moments is text. Yeah.
So yeah, just playing through that. It's pretty fun so far. It's Dragon Ball Z.
I would say try and stick with it. I remember being quite bad at it at the beginning, and I think it just like it wants you to learn how to like dodge. And I will say, like, try and be in sparking mode as much as you possibly can. Yeah, like when you like power up beyond the like limit of the game or whatever, and then you can like hit people real good. I would just try to be doing that as often as you possibly can.
Gotta get past my limiter.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's Dragon Ball Z. It's fun. I am gonna keep trying it. And I have a question. Can you deflect High Blast? How do you deflect?
God, I don't remember. I think you can, but I don't remember what button combination does it.
Maybe I need to go back to like the classic Tenkaichi mode, and then my brain will start thinking about it, because they said that standard was recommended, but standard was not how it used to be.
I mean, you should try it, see like what mode works for you.
Yeah.
But I do think it kind of just requires you to like do it enough until you kind of lock into it and you're like, all right, I think I know what to do here.
I just got to lean forward and put my elbows on my legs.
Yeah, get into gamer mode. I agree.
100% gamer mode. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I've been playing. What have you been playing, Chase?
Nice. Let me see. So I got 2.5 games for you, David.
Ooh, 2.5.
2.5 Men. This one isn't with Charlie Sheen anymore.
That's preferred.
It's preferred. It's actually just Angus T. Jones this time.
It's all Angus T. Jones.
It's all Angus. Ashton Kutcher was too expensive, because he was Charlie Sheen's replacement for a little while.
He was, yeah.
Which is
Wait, the show is still going?
Let's take a peek, shall we? It seems like surely that's not.
I was about to say.
No, ended in 2015. Good God.
People loved 2.5 Men for a bit. I watched a couple of the seasons, but then there was one episode where they just kept on shitting on Sacramento. I'm like, I'm out.
You've lost me, guys. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Would you like, David?
Give me my options. R.L. Stein. Give me my options.
What can I offer you this time? One of them is very clear, but I'm trying to find another one that wouldn't be quite as obvious. I mean, fuck it. We'll just make it obvious.
Okay.
Would you prefer bananas or tall grass, David?
I gotta say bananas.
Sure, yeah. The first game that I have been playing is Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
How do the monkeys look in this one?
The very high definition, extremely defined. No, they look fine. It looks like DK.
Looks like DK. Cool.
So fairly recently, an HD version of DK Country Returns came out for the Switch, and I was pretty sure that I had played this game, but I had so little memory of it that I was like, I should play this again. I remember playing Tropical Freeze. That was the one that came out probably 5 years ago at this point. And I enjoyed that. I liked that game a lot, and I remember enjoying this one, but didn't remember anything about it. And also, my wife, who's she really likes Nintendo games. And anytime there's a new one that I'm like, it's just kind of a platformer, I'm like, I bet she's going to dig this. So bought this and just kind of put it in front of her and was like, hey, new DK if you want to. And we played it. And it is DK Country Returns. It's so for anybody who hasn't played that, it is very much a sequel to Donkey Kong Country specifically. More so than any other game, it is this is essentially Donkey Kong Country 4, because it's the style of game is very similar. It's largely just a platformer left to right, sort of classic, just like Mom used to make them kind of deal. And the music is very similar to the Super Nintendo ones. The way it feels just to operate DK feels very similar to that game. They have made a couple of updates that I find very helpful.
Yeah.
They added modern mode, which is I think in the original one, it played similar to the Super Nintendo version, where if either you or Diddy took a hit, then they're just out for a little while and you have to find another barrel with them in it. But modern mode gives you 3 hits until that happens. So you essentially have 6 times that you can get hit, which initially I was like, is that going to make this game really easy? The answer is the game is really fucking hard to begin with.
Those games are always hard.
Yeah. And so it helps a little bit to be I actually do need all 6 hearts in this case. It's a good game. I was much more interested in just how a game like this gets memory hold for me, because I'm sure that I play this entire thing and just it didn't leave that huge of an impact on me. And I think part of that is the moment that it came out in. This game was originally a Wii game that came out in 2010, and I just think that specific moment for me, I was I was playing games, but I don't think games were having an impact on me in the same way that they did when I was a kid.
Sure.
And I was also trying to grapple with what my relationship with games was at that time.
Because that was a year after we graduated from high school. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I was quite busy doing community college and shit like that. And also was just dirt broke, had zero money. And so any money that I had was mostly just going to living. And so, buying a brand new fresh game was so not a thing I was doing. This was the era of opening up my Xbox 360 to solder something in there to try and hack the 360 so that I could play Mass Effect 2,
I remember that.
Yeah. And it kind of worked.
Wow. Yeah. That is a deep memory. Wow.
Yeah. And so I think part of it was just the moment that it came out, because I am positive that if somebody was 12 when this came out, they'd be no, I totally remember every inch of this game. It's probably a pretty subjective experience. And yeah, the kind of where I was going with that thing before was just to say that my experience with games now is so different than it was when I was a kid, and not worse or different, but I think when I'm looking for something that's leaving impact, I'm looking for different stuff.
Sure.
And so again, I think that's why something like 1,000 Times Resist leaves such an impact on me, because I'm I haven't played something like this before. It's incredibly moving. There's so much stuff going on in here. And so for a pretty good platformer to be something that leaves impact, it has to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Or be something like Mario Odyssey, where it's so different and so bizarre. But all that said, I was interested in this moment for Nintendo, because even with my own sort of, grappling with what I'm playing and how I understand games, this was an odd time, I feel for Nintendo, because I feel up until this point, they had been operating under a ethos of like, we need to make every game be so original and so different than the last one. And that's not true across the board. And like, especially if you're looking at like Game Freak or something with the Pokemon games. But I think like most like Mario games were pretty different. And like a lot of the Zeldas were trying different shit and like to varying degrees of success, right? Like Skyward Sword is a very odd game, but you can't say it's unoriginal. You know, it's a very strange take on how to play a Zelda game, but that's the only game like it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think like Nintendo like wasn't very good and still isn't perfect, but even especially at this moment, wasn't very good of like, how do we transport these games into the future like if they were an older game, you know, because they had these series like, you know, you can even take Mario or something where they hadn't been doing Mario for a long time, like in the form that it was early on, right? So like side-scrolling Marios eventually had to be labeled like new Super Mario Bros. You know, like that was a new thing that they were doing, was returning to side-scrollers. Or even, you know, how much of a splash something like A Link Between Worlds was when it came out, because they're like, oh shit, we're still doing like top-down Zelda. That's cool, you know? Because they had just been doing like the thing for so long was like, we're doing 3D Zelda now.
That's a good Zelda game.
It was an incredible Zelda game. And I think there is like, it's not a straight line, but you can see sort of this beginning era with like this game and like even something like Punch Out or something like that, which they made that new version of that game around this time too, where they're like, what does it look like if we just make like a good, interesting version of something that we used to do, right? And I think, you know, DK Country Returns is like kind of a victory lap for how good DK Country was in the first place. And A Link Between Worlds is like, we have fully embraced the fact that top-down Zeldas still are very good. And also, here's this extra shit that we can do that makes it very novel and interesting still. And I feel like you see that ethos way more commonly now with a lot of Nintendo's games, where they're like, Mario Wonder is a great example, where they're like, we're comfortable with it being a side-scrolling Mario game, but like there's going to be a bunch of other shit in there that makes it feel fresh. I just think there was such a rush, and this specific bit is like not Nintendo, but there was a huge like gold rush almost of like, we have to move everything into 3D, and it cannot resemble stuff that came out on like the SNES or the NES, because that's going to feel like old and aged. Like we're over it, kind of. We're done with that era of games. Even Donkey Kong, like Country stopped on the SNES, and then they put out DK64, you know, like immediately being like, it's in 3D. Sorry, that's what it is now. And again, this isn't true across the board. There was definitely like games that they were trying to put out that were like similar, but I find it interesting to think about, like, at the time I felt impressed that they were even considering bringing back Donkey Kong, you know? And like I said, my memory hauling of this game might speak to the fact that like it didn't leave as big of an impact, but like I'm still having a phenomenal time playing through this game. Like it's really, really fun. I find it extremely charming. Like it goes so hard on like secret hidden shit in the levels. I love that. Yeah, like I think Mario does it very well too, but Mario's a little bit sparse with it. Not sparse, but like they're conscious of how much hidden stuff they're putting in these levels. Sure. Whereas like in DK Country Returns, there's like 5 to 7 hidden puzzle pieces in every single level. And like in addition to, you know, the finding the letters KONG in every one of them.
That's great.
There's just, it's very fun. To me, what that signals is just that like they had a good time designing this game and sort of making it into like an Easter egg hunt in a way that I find really charming, and also, you know, feels very Nintendo, right? Like this is very Mario. It's very Kirby in the Forgotten World too, of like, just go scratch at the edges of this game. See if you can find some cool shit. And that just always feels good, you know, of like when you get to the end of a level and like the goal post is right there and you're like, doesn't that like hill over on the right just look a little fucky, you know, like a little odd? Yeah. And you run over there and there is like a hidden wall with like a shitload of bananas behind you. And you're like, that's good. That's good stuff.
I always love those because it takes such a deep understanding of how someone who plays a lot of games interprets visual context, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of just like one thing just looks like a little out of place, and like someone who maybe doesn't play that game or doesn't play a lot of games wouldn't notice it at all, but like you are a core gamer, Chase. You're like, I've got to go punch that wall over there. See what's up.
I have to. Yeah. And it's been a really fun time because I'm largely not playing this game. I'm just getting handed the controller when it's like too hard for my wife to play, which is a totally fun experience for me. I love watching someone play a video game.
Let it be known Chase likes to watch.
It's true. Yeah. I gotta sit in the gamer cuck chair. Come on.
Man. You had that one ready to go.
It's just, that was the straight path to the joke. Like both of us held our hands and walked over there and you just pointed at it and said, do you want to make the joke? And I had to. I'm sorry.
This chair is just for little baby gamers. Anyways, move on. Let's go.
Yeah. But so I'm largely not playing it very much, but it's still incredibly fun to watch. And I also love watching someone who's a lot of their experience in the world has been playing video games. That is not the experience that Em has had. I love watching her also develop that skill of I bet there's something back there. Because it's not necessarily a hard thing to do. It's just exposure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And especially if you play one of these games, you'll start to learn the language that it's speaking to you of there's not a cliff over there. There's just you can see a ledge a little bit. So I bet if you go down there, there's something you can find.
Yeah. Or why does this area in particular have a bush behind it or something? There's got to be something behind there.
Yeah. And so it's just it's been an incredibly fun experience. I hope that that Nintendo can continue to bring this energy to other series because they still do this, right? F-Zero hasn't gotten a release in so long, and Star Fox is seemingly dead somewhere.
Reggie killed Fox McCloud in cold blood.
Yeah, he said we're both leaving. But I think that it's a tough balance because I love Nintendo's willingness to only put out games when they think they've got something good. I like that about them. I love no corporation, but I appreciate that Nintendo is let's at least try to put something out that is largely good rather than just let's churn out slop,
Sure.
And so I like that about them, but also for games that have had such a long time between the last release they had, at a certain point, I'll take another DK Country Returns, or in this case, I'll take F-Zero 2025. If you just put out an okay version of it, that's totally cool with me. In the absence of very good game preservation, you can put out just a fastball over home plate of F-Zero or Star Fox.
Sorry, I was just laughing because when you said F-Zero 2025, I just imagined Captain Falcon giving you talking points for your Beats headphone ad you're going to do.
It's a very confusing experience because he doesn't really talk in full sentences. He just holds up the beats and is like, yes! And that's it. And you're like, what am I supposed to interpret from this? Okay. What Falcon, what do you want from me?
You have a pretty good Falcon impersonation. Where did that come from?
You. I don't know. Oh. I think if I hear something enough, I can do a pretty good impersonation. And,
sure. You did play a lot of Captain Falcon and Smash.
Playing enough Smash sure will let you hear Captain Falcon.
Show me the moves.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, DK Country Returns HD. I'm having a good time with it. I wish this was not a revelation that this kind of game comes out. Again, game preservation. Why is it hard to have this be available? But I'm glad it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
Again, it's also sort of a bummer because I know I've bought this on multiple consoles and here we go. You got me again.
There's games some games are too well preserved.
In a way, yeah.
Right.
I would take that over most other things. The sheer availability of Resident Evil 4 is remarkable. You can play that on so many things.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And I also appreciate Capcom sometimes it's not going to be that expensive on this one, there's a couple consoles where it's it's $10 this time. Great, perfect. That works for me. Because hey, Resident Evil 4, the original, still a very good game. Still very fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, it's Donkey Kong Country Returns. So the other 1.5 games that I have to talk to you about, David, I got the itch to play another Pokemon ROM hack.
Whoa.
I've played most Pokemon games. I haven't beaten all of them, but I would say most of the generations I've at least tried to play some of.
Yeah.
But something that keeps them very fresh is this like ROM hacking community, which for Pokemon, like that is the ROM hacking community. You know, like I've played some ROM hacks of like Fire Emblem games, and I see other hacks of other games from time to time. Like I played the one for, what was it, Super Mario Sunshine last year that like made it so each shine sprite was not a bespoke level. You just kind of wandered around in there and did it all.
Yeah.
But for there is no other amount, like sheer volume of ROM hacks than there are for the Pokemon games. Like there are so many of them. And for anybody who doesn't know what that word or phrase is it's essentially just a version of an existing Pokemon game or a totally new one that's built upon like the engine of a specific generation, right? So like Radical Red is an example of like, it's essentially just Red, but really fucking hard. Or Pokemon Unbound is one that's gotten a lot of traction in the past couple of years, where it's pretty much a brand new game, I think built on the Emerald engine, if I remember correctly. But yeah, really good game, like really, really fun. And I would say that like most Pokemon ROM hacks fall into one of two categories similar to that, where it's either an entirely different thing, a totally new game with like probably some familiar Pokemon, but some of them have originals too, or it is a modified version of the base game. And a lot of the stuff that you see in those ROM hacks, there's like some commonalities between them. A lot of the time it is, we've added all the Pokemon that we can. Yeah. You can catch all of them in this game, meaning like for even the Pokemon that like they evolve when you trade them. In this one, no, they don't. We just have like a stone that you can give them or whatever. Stuff like that, to the point where like if you fire up one of these ROM hacks, it's not uncommon to be like, all right, give me the complete version of Red or Sapphire or whatever. And I think that that's like a pretty, I like that approach, because I think that like if you're going to make something totally new, it's going to be so dependent on taste, you know, like, and a lot of these ROM hacks are like, what if there was blood and cussing in this one? And I don't always really want that. Like, it's Pokemon is a children's game. I don't need that in there.
Those ROMs came out at the same time that the Prince of Persia.
Yeah, the Warrior Within.
The Warrior Within. That's it. The Warrior Within came out.
Yeah. This one plays Linkin Park when you boot it up. Although I would like that, to be fair.
Some Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. I did it all for the Pokies. It's tough. That was a tough one even for me.
Wow. That was good. That was good.
Thanks. Anyway, so I got the itch to do this because like it's just something that kind of is calming for me to be able to be like, let me just put on a Pokemon and, you know, kind of grind something out and catch some pokes and stuff like that. And I will say, I also just like I think I've broken a part of my brain because it's so hard for me not to play a Pokemon on the regular hardware anymore.
Oh, really?
Specifically because I need to be able to speed that fucking game up.
Overclock it.
God, do I need a fast forward button in these games? Because like, again, I think it's just that it's intended for kids, and like they don't want it to go very like to be too overwhelming, and like you want to see your Pokemon fighting and shit. Like I just really would like to be done with the fight within 5 to 10 seconds, you know? And so like the fast forward feature just makes it such a relief for me to play these games. So the half game that I played was Pokemon Eternal X, David. This is
sounds very
ROM
edgy.
hack. It's just a ROM hack of Pokemon X, of X and Y.
Oh, I've played those ones. Wow, I can be part of this.
Those Pokemon games or that ROM hack?
I played Pokemon X.
Okay, sure, yeah, nice. This was a generation that I like kind of missed. Like I played some of it, but pretty much the moment that they gave me the like mega evolutions, I was like, that's cool. I think I'm out. And that's not necessarily because I thought that they were whack, but it came out, I think, in 2013, and like in my first quarter of college after I had transferred.
Yeah.
And so like I'm in classes that are kicking my whole ass and also attempting to like meet hundreds of new people to establish some kind of like friend group. And so like holing up in my room and playing Pokemon was like not on the highest priority, you know?
Fair enough.
But a lot of people have nice things to say about this generation. And so like I wanted to check it out again. So I like fired up Eternal X, which is a game for the 3DS, I might mention. And I'm not playing this on original hardware. I'm playing this on the Ain Odin. And I will say that Pokemon games are very good for emulation specifically. And the DS versions of them are pretty easy to get away with emulating, because there's some games where like you so need to be able to have access to both screens at all times. Yeah. Pokemon's not really like that. You know, like it's usually there's important shit going on one screen, and like I just need to see that I'm kind of clicking the right move on the other screen, and I don't need that screen to be very big. And so like you can do the layout where it's like what the top screen is a much bigger version or takes up much more real estate, and the bottom screen is just like a little guy next to it. And even especially with the Ain Odin, because it just tracks your touch screen, so like anything can be the touch screen portion of the screen there. So like you can use touch controls if you want to, but like I just need to use flamethrower. Like it's okay. I can see that that's the one I've selected, you know?
And that's the move I will use for the next 20 hours.
That was my entire ethos when I was playing through Red the first time, was like, fuck type matchups. I'm just going to get Charizard big enough that he can tank anything and beat anyone.
Yeah. Ultimate Charizard.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started playing this game, and I will say Pokemon X is a game that I have had so many false starts on, where I've tried to play it probably 5 times to start it, and I think I've gotten past that first gym once, which was the first time I played it.
Dang.
I have the bad news that this is another one of those false starts because the state of 3DS emulation is not perfect.
Oh, bummer.
And my game is crashing a lot. There have been many times where I'm like, wow, I'm almost at this gym. Let me just go grind out for like 30 minutes or whatever. And then after the last battle, the game just shuts right off. And I'm like, did I just totally miss half an hour of grinding in the grass? Like, I don't think I want to do that
That's
again.
brutal.
You know?
Jeez.
So I have mostly given up on that one. I may just wait until the state of 3DS emulation's in a little bit better of a spot, because like there was the whole like boondoggle with Citra, the emulator. They like they were the emulator, I think, for 3DS and maybe Wii U. I forget if that's exactly right, but I was using it for 3DS, and they were building it, but they were also charging for like a Patreon to have access to like their emulator or something like that.
No.
And Nintendo was like, that is actually extremely
illegal.
Suable. Yeah. So like, because I think it is one thing to just make them available online. Like
it's another thing
that's
to earn money
harder
off of it,
legally, you know, like, is it illegal to just have that? I don't think so. You know, like it's weird. It's a very weird gray zone. Whereas like charging people money to be able to play a game that Nintendo, okay, yeah, like we've crossed into the territory, you know? Anyway, so like that whole thing got shut down. And so I've seen that there's like a couple of projects that are attempting to like revive the code base of Citra. And I think Lime is the one that's largely the farthest, but it seems like it's being worked on kind of behind the scenes almost. And so like, you know, there's not a ton of updates, and I kind of suspect that like crashes like this are not going to get fixed immediately.
Sure.
And it's possible that it's the ROM hack, but when weighing my options, I was like, I think I would just rather play a different ROM hack than just play the vanilla version of X, which, you know, take it for what you will. But I also will say the emulators for 3DS, they don't have a fast forward button. You have to like go into a menu and say like, go ahead and unlock the frame rate and then go back. And so like, I don't know about that either.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So the answer was that I rotated to the actual game that I played more of, which is Pokemon Volt White Redux 2, David.
Wow, that is a name.
It's a mouthful.
My goodness.
Okay, so it is a ROM hack of Pokemon White 2, and it's called Volt, and it is the Redux, meaning that they have updated it, and there is a complete version of it. So it's a fresh version of White 2, is essentially what's going on here.
Cool.
This was apparently ROM hacked by this duo called Aphex Cubed and Drayano, and this is in line with those ROM hacks where it's like they haven't changed that much, but the changes they've made just make it kind of a more enjoyable experience. So like the whole roster up to that point is there, so 649 Pokemon are in this one, and some of the like moves are modified a little bit, so like, you know, some things do different damages, or like you get different moves in different order and shit like that. The level curve is also a little bit higher, so like by the time you get to the Elite Four, you're supposed to be like around level 70 or something. And I will say that the difficulty is adjusted a little bit, and that can be scary to me.
Sure, yeah.
Because like every now and then I'll play a ROM hack where it's like, yeah, we upped the difficulty, and I'm like, how crazy style did you up the difficulty? Like how wild did you get with it? Because like I can handle either A, like you need to grind a little bit, or B, you just need to like make a concerted effort to like do a little bit of a smart move, you know? Like this one Pokemon is using a lot of like pump up to like make their attacks really strong. Either you need to beat them quickly or like do something to lower their attack, you know? I can deal with that. I can work with that, but not like we have made like the ultimate life form of a Pokemon, and you
it's
will
actually
not fucking beat
Shadow the Hedgehog in Pokemon.
Yeah, it's Shadow the Hedgehog, who has nothing but 6 Mewtwo's, which is actually probably not a good team.
Wow.
But like,
do you think 6 Mewtwo's combined would make Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what going supersonic means.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I think
also Keanu Reeves.
Just throw Keanu in there. Why not?
Yeah, another Keanu.
As Johnny Silverhog? Or is it Johnny Silverhand cosplaying as Keanu Reeves?
Pause. Johnny Silverhog is not a road that I'm willing to walk down, David.
Hey, I said it and then I kept moving. I wasn't walking down the road. You're the one who came back to the road.
I can't just pass this by. It's because I get what you're saying, hedgehog, right?
Yeah.
I get it's Silverhog, but the fact that his name is normally Johnny Silverhand leads to a much darker interpretation of Johnny Silverhog that I will not be privy to. I will not participate in.
Hey man, he's chromed head to toe. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's a chromed out granny if I've ever seen one.
Chromed out man.
My chooms are about to go crazy on this. The chooms are going to go wild on this
My
one.
choombadas are about to go bombada on this Silverhog.
Oh boy. The point being, Pokemon Volt White Redux 2 Complete is harder but not outrageous. Mm-hmm. They have a like challenge mode if you really want to go crazy style, but like for the rest of us, it's pretty manageable. Again, like I said, it is largely just like the teams are not made by a crazy person, like the teams of Pokemon. It's not like I have 3 or 6 level 1 Weedles, you know? It's like there's a little bit of thought put into it, which I appreciate because like I love Pokemon games and sometimes I will play one and sort of think that I'm enjoying it, but I just sort of like cruised through the game and there was no friction, you know?
That was my experience with Sword and Shield.
Yeah. And like I kind of want there to be just like some moments where I have to look at my team and be like, is this right? Or like, am I high enough level? Should I change my move set a little bit? Because it's asking you to just like engage with the video game, you know, like the mechanics of Pokemon, like check them out a little bit and check and look at how you can be better at it. I suspect that like a lot of ROM hacks are intended for people who are like almost at the competitive level as far as like the changes that
That's
are going
for the real
on
sickos.
with them. Right. Who like know every type matchup by heart, know every move that a Pokemon is going to learn, like have their team and have it be the one that like they have considered and thought about and really like laid out, you know, okay, well, I've got a real big weakness over here that I need to watch out for, or like making sure that there's like, you know, just this perfect stitching of types that they've got. I don't always have that. I'm much closer to like, I don't know, man, this Pokemon looks fucking sick and I'm going to use him, you know, but I do like being challenged a little. So I appreciate kind of the place that this game has landed.
Cool.
All that said, this is not a generation that I'm horribly familiar with either. This one is of kind of a similar era. I think it came out in like 2012, the sequel to White and Black. And it like I'm familiar with some of it, but this all feels pretty new to me still.
But you liked Black and White a lot, didn't you?
I think I did. I never returned to it, so I don't know if I really went back and like reassessed like what was good about the game in the first place. And so like, you know, 15 years of distance from it, now I'm like, what about this was the thing that I liked?
Yeah.
But I think it's really fun. I think this is a good one. I am enjoying sort of the setting, which I think is like kind of it's like the New York area almost.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty fun. It's cool. Like it's interesting to me how adherent any one Pokemon is to the base formula of like how quickly are they getting you into the shit of like, okay, now you're a Pokemon person, go out into the wild, you know? And I think that the time to catching Pokemon is pretty low in this one, which I appreciate. Like just let me loose, man. Let me go out there. They have added the rival in this one. They've decided to make him a shithead, which I'm never really sure which model of rival I prefer. It's kind of fun when it's just a rival who's like, I don't know, we got a friendly competition or whatever. Unbound, I think, is a very good version of that weirdly, where it's like there is a sort of competitive rivalry, but also like you do have to work together a couple times, and it is kind of nice to do that. But in this one, it's just a shithead. He's just an annoying child.
I like that.
It does make it compelling whenever he shows up. Like this dork, I gotta beat his entire team down so bad.
I'm about to beat some ass right now. Bring out the Silverhog.
No, don't. Keep him in someone's PC. I don't want to participate.
He's trying to blow up some buildings.
He is trying to blow up some buildings. Arasaka? Is that the name of the company?
Arasaka.
Yeah, that's the like huge tower that you have to go and beat everybody's ass in this
There you go.
Arasaka Tower in Pokemon. You know, I might play Pokemon 2077 now that we're kind of conjuring this whole thing.
There's a lot of similarities, I think, already between Pokemon 2077 and Fight Club. I can see it.
Yeah, it's not too far away. I agree with you. But so the shitty friend. I did name mine Boston Rob. Because I've been watching a lot of Survivor. And we're also watching Traitors right now.
Traitors?
And Traitors, it's another reality TV show. Shouts out to Alan
like
Cumming.
People who betray you or people who trade goods?
People who betray you, David.
Okay.
And he's on that one, and I'm at my limit with Boston Rob right now.
Professional heel on reality television.
Yeah, I'm up to my ankles. No, that's not very far up the body. I'm up to my ears in Boston Rob. I wish I was up to my ankles in Boston Rob.
You have Boston Rob all over you.
I sure do. And I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I named my rival after him so that I could feel good about beating him whenever I did.
Nice. Does it feel satisfying?
It does. It does feel quite satisfying. Again, like, I appreciate that the difficulty is adjusted to the point where, like, I am losing not all that infrequently. And that's fun for me.
Yeah.
Like, again, just because I have to be like, all right, what was his team? Like, what role am I not filling correctly that I can try and exploit? And because, like, again, there are so many Pokemon in this game, you got a lot of options with like which ones to approach, because again, there's 649 of them, and a lot of them are just on the routes. Like, it's not like they're hidden anywhere. And so you can just go try and like find a new one that like works better for your team, which I really love. I think it's really good. I'm definitely still falling into the trap of like, I need my starter, I need a bird, I need some kind of four-legged cool creature like an Arcanine or a Luxray or something like that.
Yeah.
And then some kind of psychic creature, and then typically I'll round it out with like something kind of busted and then a legendary. You know?
Who's filling my bird slot right now?
Who's got my bird slot? Who's in my bird slot? There's a lot of good birds in the Pokemon. I
absolutely get it. I'm a big Pidgeotto fan from Gen 1.
Sure.
Pidgeotto was my boy. I love Pidgeotto.
Yeah.
They have some good birds. They have some top flight birds.
I do appreciate that there's always like, they really always have a bird on like the first route that you can do, which I really like.
Everybody knows birds. It's an easy way to get you into the game.
Yeah. I like the Fletchling to Talonflame generation too, just because Fletchling's so tiny that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously Corviknight is like dope. I really like that, but he's like almost too cool.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the bird Pokemon kind of needs to be like a little bit nerdy, you know, like it kind of does just need to be a bird. And Corviknight's like, that's a creature flying around out there. That's like almost too much of a Pokemon.
I like Farfetch'd. He's a good one.
Farfetch'd is good.
I
do appreciate Farfetch'd.
Great.
Yeah.
Goofy little guy.
Yeah.
Talonflame is just a cool ass bird.
It's a cool bird. Yeah, I think that's partially why I like it.
Yeah, it's just like a peregrine falcon with a cool color scheme with a sick paint job.
Got that ice cream paint job. Anyway, so I'm really enjoying this. It's both a cool way to experience this generation that I have a little bit less familiarity with, and also to kind of give it a new coat of paint. Like, in a way, I don't necessarily want to replay these games, because something in me knows that like I played them at some point, despite the fact like I have very little memory of them. Yeah. So it's kind of a weird catch-22, but for some reason the ROM hack of it all makes it a lot more nice for me to go back and check it out. And I think part of it is just like the part of my brain that was marketed to so heavily and chants the phrase "gotta catch them all" just kind of in my sleep. The fact that I can in any of these games, not that I will, but that I can, makes it very satisfying for me to play.
There's a chance. There's an opportunity to catch them all.
There is a chance, yeah. So anyway, that's Pokemon Volt White Redux 2 complete.
Nice.
Which I'm having a great time.
Hell yeah.
And that'll bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
It's cousin games, David.
Cousin games.
Pat Gill over at Polygon put up an article and a video talking about cousin games.
Okay.
And essentially the thrust of the article and the video is that there are undeniable games that like if you own a console, you must have. Like Mario 64 is not a cousin game. Like if you own a 64, you should and probably do own Mario 64.
Sure.
But he said that like the weirder why would you own these kind of games are cousin games.
Okay.
He cites Army Men Sarge's Heroes, Rise of the Robots, Iggy's Wrecking Ball, Operation Winback, Spy Hunter, and Bug are some of the cousin games.
There's some Podtimistic games on there.
I was sent that exact comparison by like 5 different people who were like, hey, this is the show. You like, he landed on the same thing that you're talking about.
We're playing cousin games.
That is correct. I think that's what's going on here because they do all of the games that we covered in Good Games are cousin games. It is okay versions of games that like are not the urgent must play, absolutely all killer, no filler. There's some filler in the games that we play, you know? I think Sarge Army Men Sarge's Heroes is like the example of a cousin game or okay game, you know? Like I don't necessarily want to own that, but like there's some good stuff in there. But is it perfect? Not really.
You're a little army guy. Who doesn't want to like just waddle around like a little army guy?
Yeah. So anyway, I was appreciative that both Pat Gill was shining a light on the underrepresented okay games, and he's now got this like moniker for it.
Okay. All right, Pat. So cousin game being like a game your cousin would own or a game?
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you just go over to your cousin's house. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Why do you have this many Wolverine games and why are they all kind of bad?
I love Wolverine. Back off.
I mean, that's true. Yeah. I think the darker truth, if you scratch just beneath the surface, David, is that like these are games that I would definitely own. I think I am a cousin gamer.
You're a cousin gamer.
I owned the hits for sure, but like there were some real stinkers in there that I was like, I gotta get this.
What were you stinking up? Anything that comes to mind?
Oh man, I feel like I was in my core cousin gamer era in the PS2 era. Like just any of those games I would slop right up, you know?
Nothing else to do.
I think Mega Man Legends is a cousin game, David.
Oh, yeah. I played The Matrix Within an unreasonable amount of times.
Yeah, the extremely cousin game. Yes, I agree. Do you have something fueling your sense of optimism, David?
I do, Chase.
What is it?
It's a happy ending.
Yeah, sure enough. Hard to do.
Yeah, hard to do. Not the kind you're thinking of. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah.
But yes, a happy ending.
A satisfying conclusion.
A satisfying. It sounds like the same thing you would say.
The euphemism. Yeah, we're not beating the euphemism allegations right now.
A gratifying conclusion. Anyways.
Why is this episode so horny?
What happened? This is what happens when you do 2 pods in 1 week. It's just the horniness. Horniness comes out in the second one.
Yeah, so weird.
So yes, I can't make it not sound sexual at this point. A happy ending. I'm just going with it. A happy ending.
Yeah, the narrative concluded and it was satisfying.
Yes, it was, and metaphor was a happy ending, and I enjoyed that. It doesn't always need to be something edgy or something that's not totally great that's happening, or even if they are trying to go for a happy ending, they sometimes don't nail the feeling of it being like truly an earned happy ending, whereas metaphor nailed it, really did. So yeah, it was great. It was very enjoyable.
I agree. Yeah, it's hard to do, and I think that Atlus typically does do like mostly narratively satisfying endings. I think partially because so much of what those games depends on is character. Yeah. That like if you just give me some conclusion to their story and then also a moment to say goodbye, that feels good enough for me a lot of the time. You know, I think like Persona 3 is kind of the good example of like it has both character and a really good narrative. And on like Persona 5's example where like it gets pretty wet and wild and wacky with it at the end, but is also fun because like I love my friends and I get to hang out with them and it's like cool to see that story end. Yeah. But I agree that I largely enjoyed Metaphor's ending. Thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Fun times.
Do you want to move on to our main thing?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Oh man, welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gosh, all the things that we love about them. Just had a handful of babka between
That was my nickname in undergrad. Handful of babka.
Handful of babka. Yeah, true. Man, that's good shit.
HOB over there.
We got suggested to play Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast by listener Wilk.
Wait, hold on. One more question about the babka. Trader Joe's?
Trader Joe's.
They make a good bob.
They do make a pretty good babka. I've had like babka from somebody who made babka. It's obviously much better, but like the Trader Joe's ain't nothing to sniff at. Is that a phrase?
Ain't nothing to I think so. I think ain't nothing to sniff at.
I think it's probably ain't nothing to sneeze at, if I remember correctly.
I mean, yeah, I think you're right.
I think that's
ain't
probably
nothing
right.
to sniff at. Idioms from the Free Dictionary. Not something that should be ignored, dismissed, or treated with disdain. The amounts of votes she managed to muster is nothing to sniff at.
That seems like a pretty weird phrase.
Nothing to sneeze. Now let's try sneeze. That may be also. Ain't nothing to sneeze at is an idiom that means something is important, impressive, or deserves attention. So I guess you could use either?
That's nothing to sniff at. Anyway, I like the babka. They do a good job. Wilk, on the topic of Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast, had to say, it's my favorite arcade racer. Yu Suzuki, an all-time Sega legend, said when developing the game that they wanted to make a, quote, a beautiful journey, unquote. I think they nailed. Wilk, thank you for suggesting this game. And I think I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Had you played this? A, how'd you play this game? B, did you fuck with Outrun at all? Like the game?
I had not played this one. I had not played the original Outrun. I know of it as just being a game that was popular back in the day, where you just were a cool guy driving a cool car with your girlfriend, and that was the game. Yeah, I didn't know that there was a sequel like this.
Yeah, I feel like this was also a moment where, like, I feel like especially like Atari games and games from that era were like, what do we look like on PlayStation and like the modern era? And like, I think Outrun is like a pretty significant game in games history.
Yeah.
Like it's odd because I think a lot of our understanding of games history comes like firsthand. Like you and I have lived through a pretty sizable portion of it, and we're also pretty active participants in it. But of course, like Outrun came out in '87, the first one, and like you and I definitely were not alive for that.
Yes.
And didn't feel kind of the impact of it. But like everything I understand is like that's a pretty significant game in games canon. Plus every now and then you do see like an Outrun arcade cabinet floating around, which is cool. It is neat. But yeah, same deal. I had played Outrun, the original one, but like definitely not this one, at least to my knowledge. I don't remember. I was about to launch into what the game is, but that's what you do. So like, let me hit you with some hot stats about this game.
Stat it up.
Hot stats.
So Outrun 2006 came out appropriately April 25th of 2006 for the PlayStation 2, PSP, and Xbox. This was made by Sumo Digital, which of course made Crackdown 3, Super Rub-a-Dub, and Team Sonic Racing, which...
Wow, they're all over the place.
Extremely all over the place. I think we covered Team Sonic Racing. I'm pretty sure that's a game that has appeared on Good Games. I do have a review of Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast from Jeux Video PC. They reviewed this game. Originally, they reviewed it in French. In Francais, one might say. And
you speak French. Wow.
Yeah, I speak. I'm so fluent in French.
The one line that all millennials know is "omelette du fromage."
That is true.
Good old Dexter's.
It's Dexter's. I was like, is that a Harold thing? Can't really remember. I took their review, which was originally in French, ran it through to Google Translate a number of times to mangle it up and get an artist's interpretation, which I'm going to read for you, David.
Let's hear it.
Some games remind you of childhood. Some people spend money on Mega Drives. Others spend even more on games. So when Sega announced a new game called, quote, Outrun, unquote, many took notice. They remember a Ferrari running over a beautiful blonde woman with her hair blowing in the wind.
Is this the Great Gatsby now?
Is the best game of the 90s still relevant 20 years after the movie was released? Do not go gentle into that. No. This is done. 75 out of 100.
Wow. The Ferrari runs over the woman in Outrun. I had no idea.
They seem to have gotten a little confused about where the blonde woman is in regards to the Ferrari. In all of my playthrough, she was sitting passenger side, but I don't remember her getting under it.
Where's the lighthouse? Where's the lighthouse?
Yes, yeah. Where's the metaphor for wealth, David? Where is that? Now that's a metaphor I could Refantazio.
Whoa. Chase the Capitalist coming out.
It's all good. I love money, my old boy. What is Outrun 2006, David?
Outrun 2006 is a racing time trial game, really, where you are a dude who has a cool Ferrari car and a cool lady friend with blonde hair in the passenger side seat. And you have to race as quickly as you can through different checkpoints before time expires to get to the end of like 5 different stages. Yeah. Is essentially what it is. There is more of like I wouldn't even call it story mode, but like kind of a challenge mode where you have to go and do different levels, and she asks you to do different things like go close to the cars, hit the cars, do this, do that, right? It's because all you're trying to do is just impress her. Yeah. And you drive fast, you drive coolly through cool locations, and you look cool doing it. And the lady is so impressed. Cool. She's impressed. Sometimes if you make it to the end, otherwise she assaults you.
Yeah, she does seem to do a couple of punches. It's so bizarre that like Outrun looked at the parts of the game that they're like, how do we translate this game to the modern era? Mm-hmm. You know, like, and I will say before I jump onto this tirade, they've translated the driving mechanics wonderfully. Yeah, it does feel really good to drive in this game.
I was very surprised.
Me
honestly.
Too. Like they totally got it. The like drifting, once you get it, feels so good, fucking good. It's crazy.
It's like the closest a drift to Mario Kart that I have felt in any other game.
Yeah, but still feels like kind of its own thing. Like it's not the little hop into the drift. It's just like once you get it, it feels phenomenal.
Very, very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, how do we translate this? And they've got like the driving down perfect, the vibe of essentially like driving super fast cars up what looks to be California coast and like just incredibly blue skies and palm trees. And they're like, we can't forget though. You gotta have the babe driving passenger seat. Like she simply must be there. That is in a part of Outrun that we cannot remove.
Sometimes you do something cool and some little hearts go above her head.
There's specifically a mode of this game where you just do shit when she tells you to do shit. Yeah. And like a lot of them are like run into other cars.
Hit the cars, or like pass the cars.
Which that was the first one that popped up for me. And I wanted to look at her and be like, what are we? Like, what do you think this is?
This is MAGA couple does a cross-country road trip.
Does a felony.
Yeah.
Because like, she's just like, she says it so enthusiastically too, of like, hit the cars.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here?
She was giving me, she's actually, you know who she is? She's actually probably the director from Stuntman.
True. Yeah. She played a little bit too much Stuntman.
Yeah.
And was like, I think I've got a great idea for this weekend.
She actually pitches her voice down through the bullhorn in Stuntman.
Right. Yeah. Huh. It was really funny. I found like her presence hilarious. And also like, it's not the kind of like weird racing, like booth babe sort of thing. Like in some like pole position often has like a babe at the end of a race that like is like wearing a bikini or something and like holding a trophy. In this one, that doesn't happen. It's just the
it's not the Cruising USA status.
Yeah, it's like the concept of having a lady in the passenger seat is the thing they're trying to communicate, which I find somehow kind of endearing. That they're like, it's not the fact that this person is attractive. It's the like cool, suave partnership of having a cool car and someone who loves you or at least likes you. That is the compelling part about that.
I don't know if you could say they're in love.
Probably
but it does feel less physically exploitative, but it feels more toxic in a way.
Yes, that like, it's the arm candy of it all. That like, I got a hot babe cruising around in my Ferrari.
Yeah, the arm candy of it all, and just like I will do whatever this woman tells me to do, even if it means like mass murder on
causing
the roads.
Destruction. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very bizarre. But I think the game doesn't take it that seriously. No. It feels like Crazy Taxi the moment you start up that.
I totally agree. It feels like Crazy Taxi when you do those levels where she just tells you to do things. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, one of the challenges is hit the beach ball. So like, we're just so out of the realm of possibility because you're just supposed to like keep it in front of you, which is so funny and hilarious. You also get like a version of a smiley face depending on how well you do, which I also found hilarious.
It's proto Rocket League.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Amazing save, says your wife. What did you think about this game, David?
I really enjoyed it. I thought, like you said, the mechanics of driving felt really good. Had a great sense of speed.
Yeah, phenomenal. You're also going like 300 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, you're going insanely fast. Still able to dodge cars on the freeway. And if you do hit a car, it ain't that big of a deal. And if you get into a big crash, it just kind of looks cool. And then you flip right side up and you just keep going. So it ain't also that big of a deal.
It seems like the game really wants you to not fail that badly.
Yeah, it wants you. If you're going to fail, it's because you just didn't go fast enough. It's not because you necessarily hit something that you shouldn't have hit.
Yes, yeah. It's wild.
And I really enjoyed the magical freeways in this game, where it's like 1 second you're on like coastal California, and then you go through a freeway, and all of a sudden you are in the Bay Area going across the Golden Gate Bridge, and then all of a sudden you're in like the middle of a forest somewhere, or like in a canyon, or in like I felt like there was Paris in this game, or like New York or something at the end.
Yeah.
It's just it was all over the place, and I appreciate that about games of this era that are trying to give you a lot of different locations in the real world, supposedly, where it's just like, oh, and all of a sudden you're here. Great.
Yeah. It's they have a very loose link with reality.
Yes. Yeah.
As far as like physical space goes, which is like totally fine. I think that's again, it's close to what the arcade was doing, where you're just like completely changing locations from minute to minute, which is fun. Again, yeah, it's very Cruis'n USA to just be like, I don't know, fuck it. We don't need like physical continuity. That doesn't matter that much. Yeah, the what Wilk had brought up, the calling this game a beautiful journey, I think like makes total sense under those circumstances of like that they're just trying to communicate like what it feels like to maybe remember a road trip or something like that. And it's not exactly a road trip because you are in this like extremely wild sports car, but it feels like an emphasized memory of something, which I'd like, it's kind of rocks. I don't know, just the vibe of that is so specific that even though it looks like, again, you and I have played so many racing games from like the PlayStation 2 era, even just like, if you just look at this show only, there's like 20 to 30 of these kind of games, and it looks like all of them, but it really, like, this is the only game that plays like this.
It's true. Yeah, it somehow is unique. Like when I first,
it's surprising.
When I first saw this, like, okay, this is going to be, a pretty generic arcade port to a console. It's not going to translate well. It's going to feel wonky, but they did an admirable job of making it feel good here. And then I think just an admirable job of making the game feel good, period. They put some real effort into it, and it shows. It's not just trying to cruise and on the name of Outrun. It's not just resting on its laurels. It's like, Outrun's back. It's cool still. It's fun.
Yeah.
Get in with the babe and go across the country. Come on, let's go. Get in, loser.
Yeah, get in, loser. We're outrunning.
We're outrunning, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bizarre video game, but I like can't help but like it a lot. It is like, I don't know if shallow is the right word, because it feels good still. I don't think shallow is the right idea, but like if I played almost every one of the modes in this game just to kind of like see it out, and like you start to see very similar parts of the game over and over and over again. And so like I think at a certain point it is like you do feel the translation of this being an arcade origin in a way of like, if you were to play an arcade game for an hour, you would see a lot of the same stuff over and over. And again, we were talking about this, I think last week or the week before, that like the discussion around like monetary value with a game kind of muddies it when you're trying to like review something, or at least in the day that this came out, kind of muddied it. But we largely just look at it as like a artistic endeavor. Yeah. And like, as that, I like it, even if it is, only about an hour or two worth of like actual very specifically unique content. I think that those hours are very good. It's an extremely like playable game.
Yeah.
Like I had no qualms about like firing up another round of this game.
You jump in and you're pretty much immediately having fun, which is great. Yeah. And I agree. It is a one-trick pony, but it's a cool trick. Yes, it's a good trick. It's like moonwalk. This pony can moonwalk. That's cool. Great.
Weirdly, my brain kept conjuring Super Monkey Ball, not because either of those games feel similar at all, but just that like the kind of simplicity of it is there. Of like, it feels like it's very simple what the thing that they're doing is, but it feels great to play. And so like I absolutely understand why someone would like return to this over and over again, because it is just kind of fun to do it, to just play the game.
Yeah.
They offer you kind of a lot of ways to move through the game, which is interesting. Like, what do they call it? Flagman is one of the modes. Of like, you can play through it, and
the novice races.
Yeah, the novice races. So you like essentially just like go from different legs of the country, I guess, racing from one part to another, which like I found fun. It's also so funny whenever you get a AAA rating, because the flagman comes up on the screen and it says rating and then AAA, but they kind of made it look like he's saying AAA, and so it looks like it's just, here's your rating, and then a man screaming at you for doing doing such a good job driving, which I really enjoyed.
Hey, why not?
Why not? I did see that. So they have a lot of levels for the like girlfriend character too. And, you know, they're split up into different sections. And then I did see that there are more unlockable levels with different girls or different women.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Yeah, as if they're like unlockable.
Have you ever
characters.
wanted to upgrade your girlfriend?
I know, so wild. It's a very silly thing.
Yeah.
It feels very boomery of like, hey, you get good enough, you can upgrade sort of deal. You know, like,
God. Yeah, it's a boomer mentality.
Yeah, but hilarious to put it in this game. Yeah, it's this game feels extremely in line with other Sega games. Like I think at some point when Into the Aether was doing their episode or their like season regarding the Dreamcast, I kept seeing the phrase, I think it's like Sega Blue, that refers to the sky box in a Sega game, meaning like what the sky looks like in a Sega video game. And it is always such a specific shade of blue and it looks so nice whenever you're playing it. Like it's so incredibly bright and communicates just like such a nice day outside. And I think this one does that too, where it looks like just so comfortably warm outside in every single one of these levels that like it just looks great. There's like usually like a few clouds in the sky, but like little tiny ones kind of like dotted around. The rest of it's like that very light blue on the horizon that kind of gets a little bit darker as you go up. Man, it looks so nice. I don't know why. Something about that. I think it's the me enjoying the open window in Persona kind of deal of like, this just looks like a good day out there.
They do that. Their use of color is really nice. I agree. They have a specific like saturation to their colors that is pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I like this game. It's very good.
Chase, what music did you choose to listen to?
Okay, so there is partially a problem because I tried to choose a lot of different music, and I think you have to unlock some.
There's a lot that you have to unlock, but there's quite a few that are available to you in the beginning.
Because I tried pretty much immediately to find like whatever the most like PS2 jungle drum and bass music I possibly could, because I was like, I know there's one on here. Like this is the era that like kind of music is just like always on the soundtrack of. But once I realized I couldn't play that automatically,
You stopped caring at all.
I just did the default song because I'm like, that'll work for me. That's cool.
Now. Can't listen to my jungle beats.
If I can't listen to drum and bass, what's the point? What did you choose?
I liked Risky Ride because it reminded me of a Dragon Ball Z song.
Interesting.
Like the timbre of the guitar was very like DBZ opening coded to me. And then I also liked, was it Night Flight? Was it? Because I liked the lady singing was good in Night Flight.
Oh yeah, they had like a female vocalist like kind of just going ham on some of these, which is very fun. I see what you're saying about Risky Ride being the DBZ intro. It's like sort of a shredding guitar in the beginning.
But like a very clear and pure sounding guitar tone, right?
Yeah, it's not like so distorted that you can't like understand what's going on in the background. The music is exactly what the game calls for. Like they nailed what the music needed to be in this game.
Yeah. Upbeat, peppy, punchy. It's kind of like
kind of goofy in a way.
Yeah. The music is the same color as the sky. That's the color of this music.
The music feels to me like the contrast of that extremely red Ferrari in the game against the blue sky.
Sure. Yeah, me. I see that.
Which like that shit works, man. That goes.
It goes hard.
Yeah. I like this game.
I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. It was enjoyable for the whole entire time I played it.
Yeah, me too. Just a fucking kind of a classic. It's a good one.
Yeah, bangs.
Wilk, thank you for suggesting this. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Going on a beautiful journey.
Don't we all?
Isn't that just life?
That's just life, baby.
Hey, outro. It's me, your boy Chase. And if you want to check out the show, you can go to podtimism.com and check out all the good stuff there. Like what games we have played in the past. You can suggest a game. David seems to be trying to make himself pass out by moving so much in the background. You can also get a link to our Discord. We are a part of the Worst Garbage Network, and there's a bunch of other cool podcasts on there you can go check out if you want to. And yeah, it's good. You should check that out. It's a fun time. Come hang in the Discord. There's a link on our website, so you should do that. Thank you to Scott Wilkinson for our podcast art. It's very good. I appreciate looking at it. Also, thank you to all the listeners who leave us reviews on any sort of podcast outlet. It does help the algorithm a little bit, which helps us and helps you, I guess. I don't know. I actually don't know if it does, but thank you if it does. Also, thank you for showing it to a friend if you feel like they might like Podtimism. It helps grow, and that's definitely not the point of the show, but it is fun and nice whenever that happens. We think it's cool to make this, and we think it's fun, and we've heard that people enjoy it, so it's nice whenever somebody else joins the fray. But biggest thing, just thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you being here as we move through this bizarre 2025 and the beginning of it. I know the meme of January being 12 months long this year is a little bit played out, but I will say I'm glad it's February that we finally made it through. Still a bit of a shit show, but still, we made it through January, y'all.
148th through.
148th through. We did it, Joe. David, do you have any gaming wisdom for me?
I do.
Yeah, what is it?
Go take a road trip.
Go take a road trip.
Road
definitely.
trips are fun.
I can endorse that message.
Road trips are fun, certifiably. You don't need to have a babe with you to make it a good road trip. You can have a road trip with just yourself. That's totally acceptable. You just have some friends, some bros.
Babe is a state of mind. Like, it doesn't need to be a specific like person or body, or like, you don't have to be necessarily like in love with them or something. Yeah. Like, you and I could go on a bro trip and I could be a babe.
Did you say a bro trip?
We can go on a bro trip and I can be a babe.
Can we take turns being the babe?
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
That's definitely a moving target for sure.
Whoever's in the passenger seat. Actually, no, I want to be the driving babe.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm the boss babe.
The little role switch. Yeah. What am I? What does that leave me with?
Just the cool guy in the passenger seat. How about that?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right with that. Yeah. I was expecting a much worse interpretation, but
you know where your chair is, Chase.
Hey. This has been such a weird one.
It's been a weird energy.
What a weird episode.
It's been a weird couple of weeks. Just the weird is leaking.
That is true. Yeah. Hey, if we're ending weird, fuck it. It's the Manga Minute, David, right here at the end.
Wow, okay.
It's the minute where I have a minute to talk about manga.
Let's hear it.
I finished Death Note, David.
Ooh, nice.
At the end of my journey, I enjoyed Death Note.
Yes.
I am not surprised that when they chose to adapt Death Note, it was significantly shorter than the manga.
You don't think it needed to be that long?
No, super didn't. It is lengthy. It is a lengthy manga. And like, some of that is fun, but like, I don't need them pontificating that much, There is so much of just like seeing what light does and then seeing someone else try to figure out what light did. And like, I, the reader, don't necessarily need to see that. The parts of it that I think are very fun are like, when they either do a time jump and they're like, hey, society is so weird now because of Kira. That I was like, I could read a whole manga about just that. That sounds very cool to me. Or whenever they don't show me something and then kind of run it in reverse where like something happened and then you get like the backstory of how it came to be. That works for me. But like, I don't need them being like, okay, so if light did this, then that means this person is that, which thereby would conclude that this thing happened. And like just chapters and chapters and chapters of that. Yeah. It's okay.
We don't need to see your work. At least not that
it's okay.
much.
Like I saw it. Like I saw light do it.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't need to see someone come to that conclusion. But the ending was good. And I had a good time with that. I think it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a fun ending.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Manga Minute, and that's the end of the podcast.
That's it.
So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Read manga this week, and we hope you have a good one.
Yeah, have a good week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.